knife. 3 spoons.
We are now going over to the Metropolitan Police Force for the start of the 1500 meters.
Driver. There we are.
Oh, well done, sir.
Wrench. Pincers. Small screwdriver. Ah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the show. If all the men in the world were one great man, what a great man that man would be. And if all the trees in the world were one great tree, what a great tree that tree would be. And if all the axes in the world were one great axe, what a great axe that axe would be. And if all the rivers in the world were one great river, what a great river that river would be. And if the great man got the great axe and chopped down the great tree, and that great tree fell into the great river, oh, what a great splash! The other thing I'm accused of, people write to me and say, why do you always tell Irish jokes? I'm an Irishman. I tell Irish jokes. But tonight, just for a change, I think I'll approach and I'll try and do different gags from different countries. And the strange thing about different humor, it's promoted by what the people of that country really not. Like the Scots. They like booze and they like fishing. And you get the wee Scotsman who's it? Fishing. Costs a leg and nothing. He fishes for 24 hours. And fishes and nothing. Doesn't get a nibble. And on the way home he's passing the pub and he thinks I'll go in and have a dram. Oh, a wee dram. Oh, that's the way to talk about it. Have a wee dram. Another wee dram. Till he gets stoned out of his mind. And on the way home he sees a scarecrow standing there like that. He says, "You're a bloody liar!" The Italian sense of humor is guided by basics, like food, the family, and sex. And you get the fellow in Venice, the gondola, and he decides to leave his wife. He gets in his gondola and he's going down, and he said, "I'm sick and tired of you! I'm going away! I'm no more going to talk to you, Nora!" She said, "Oh, what about the bambinos?" He said, "I screw the bambinos." She said, "Oh, what about the spaghetti?" He said, "I me spaghetti. I don't know what is spaghetti or lasagna or lasagna." She said, "What about the night we lie together in bed?" He said, "Oh, one of these days I'm going to go. I'm going to go." The Germans actually have a Teutonic sense of humor. And the doctor says to the fellow, he said, "I am sorry to have to tell you that we must amputate the leg. Then if you wish to amputate my leg, I am glad to have the leg amputated." Put him to sleep. The operation, he wakes up. He said, "Was it successful, my amputation?" And the surgeon said, "I have good news, and I have bad news." He said, "What? Is that bad news?" He said, "We have amputated the wrong leg." He said, "What is the good news?" He says, "You don't have to have the other leg amputated." American humor is guided by what we call the social atmosphere of the time. And I'd like to take, if I may, down into the southern states, into a very small county, and there's a local election. And there's a little coloured fella there going to vote. And there's what I call a big redneck sheriff standing there, and he says, "Where you going, boy?"
He said, I'm going to vote, sir.
Said, "Boy, you know, in this county, if you want to vote in this county, you've got to be able to read and you've got to be able to write."
He said, I can read and I can write, sir.
He said, "Well, I was just going to put you to a test there, boy." And he gives him a ballpoint pen and a piece of wax paper.
I could write this morning.
He said, "You just proved to me you can't write. Now, can you read?" He said,
Of course I can read, sir.
and he gives him the Hebrew Times. In Hebrew, and he says, "Read that, boy."
He said, I can't make out the small print, but I can make out the big headline.
He said, "What does it say?" He said,
No niggers voting in this county today.
The English love what we call sport. And years ago, you get what we call a gentleman who was a very fine wrestler. And we found out that somewhere in the west of England, there was a man with a great reputation as being a wrestler. And he said, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to get my little airplane down. I'm going to get up down to Devon, and I'm going to challenge this chap to a wrestling match. All right, we'll decide between the two of us who is the better of our wrestler. And off he goes to Devon. And he gets to a blacksmith shop, and there's a gigantic fella standing there with a hammer and the anvil. And he went, toom, toom.
He said, excuse me, old chap, is your name Mr. Hobbs?
He said, "Aye, that ain't my name, sir."
He said, I believe that you have a reputation somewhat for being somewhat good chappy at wrestling.
He said, "I do, sir. I do have a reputation around these parts being a good wrestler."
He said, well, I'm going to challenge you to a wrestling match, okay?
Gets off his horse, and the blacksmith goes, and gets him. Goes, picks him up. 20 yards over the hedge into the muck. Boom! And up he comes, peeps over the hedge, and the fellow says, "Can I do anything more for you, sir?" He said, "Yes, would you throw me my horse?" You know, actually, there's one thing, and I mean this very seriously, there's one thing I hate in life, and it's what I call homespun philosophy. And it normally comes in what we call proverb form. Like people say, "Don't cross your bridges until you come to them." How the hell can you cross a bridge? What are you doing in Bradford? "I'm waiting for Tower Bridge to open so I can cross over." And they say things like, "It takes a thief to catch a thief." Now that doesn't say a lot for the police force. Well, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. The fellow who said that didn't spend an hour in the bushes with a couple of birds. I love the one they say, "They passed like ships in the night." Imagine two people going up a corridor going, Oh, it's a wise child that knows his own father. It's a brilliant child that knows his own father. And yet they say also that the child is the father of the man. I'm not surprised who he knows his father is, then, aren't I? And the one I love. Teach your grandmother to suck eggs. Hello, Granny.
Hello.
Here we have a little egg, Granny.
Hello, little egg.
Now we just knock the top off like this.
Hello.
Put it in your mouth and take a deep breath. And you and dies. Teach your grandmother to suck eggs. There's many a slip twixt cup and lip. I bet you the fellow who said that was a drunk. Of all the proverbs, of all the proverbs that there is only one which makes any sense to me, and that is the saying that action speaks louder than words.
We should like to apologize for the loss of picture. This is due to a technical fault, so there is no need to adjust your sets. I said don't adjust your sets.
And so we say farewell to Archibald Smith. A good, kind, simple soul.
He wasn't. He was a terrible arguer. Never let things be. Had to be right. Always had to have the last word.
No, I didn't.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now for my final demonstration as to the power of hypnosis, I do require the assistance of one member of the audience. Thank you, sir. It's so kind of you, but I do, in this case, in this demonstration, prefer to use a female. You will understand why after I have demonstrated. Madam, would you be so kind as to come up on the stage and assist me in this final trick? You are very kind. Now, the thing I do ask you is not to be nervous, not to be frightened in any way. I just want you to listen to my voice. I want you to completely relax. Relax and listen to my voice. And watch this as it moves backwards and forwards. A sleep, a heavy sleep is descending upon you. You are beginning to float. You will listen to my voice. You will obey every command. In a moment, I will wake you up. And when I wake you up, with a snap of my fingers, you will have an uncontrollable desire to take all your clothes off. You will take all your clothes off when I snap my finger.
Filthy beast!
You ever heard the expression, it's all in the mind? You're imagining things. You should see a psychiatrist. People who see psychiatrists are people who build castles in the air. And a psychiatrist is like a landlord. He collects the rent. The fellow goes in and he said, can I speak to you, doctor? He said, yes, what? He said, I think I'm a dog. I am a dog. I'm a dog. The psychiatrist said, would you lie on the couch? He said, I'm not allowed on the couch. Well, the priest in the confessional box says, do you suffer from harmful thoughts? He said, no, I enjoy them. They say it's all in the mind. The man who controls the mind, and he's lying in bed, and he is about to go to sleep. And he's worked out his own way of making his body go to sleep. And he lies and he says, toes, toes, go to sleep. Foot, heel, leg, knee, go to sleep. Thigh, body, go to sleep. Arms, go to sleep. Jaw, go to sleep. Brain, go to sleep. Just then a very beautiful girl in a negligee walks in and says, darling, I love you. And he goes, everybody up! Everybody up! Gotta be careful with those karate chops. It nearly took me off. It's said that the mind can control the body. And the mind can control the imagination. But can the imagination control the mind? I suppose it all depends on what state your mind is in at the time. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I'll knock.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, Lord, we ask you to take this poor soul into the kingdom of heaven.
I beg to differ. This one belongs to me.
All I can tell you was cold. The thing, I don't know if you know anything about monasteries, but it's a place you can go to retreat, what we call a retreat, which means you can isolate yourself from the bothers and troubles of the world. And there's a man who goes every year to a monastery, and the prior says, is there anything I can do to help you while you're here? And he said, yes. He said, there's only 3 things you can give me. I'd like an apple, an orange, and a piece of string. And he's given these. And the prior, who's in the next cell to him, lies there awake all night, listen to this fellow, and all he can hear is whang, boom, bang, chick, 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 boom, bang, whang, dung, boom, boom, chick, 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 boom, boom. He thinks, what the hell is he doing in there? And he thinks curiosity is the weapon of Satan. I will not ask him. And the man goes away and he comes back the next year. He said, can I do it? He said, yes, I'd like, the whole kind of thing, the orange, the apple, the piece of string. And he's lying in bed that night, and all he can hear is whang, a bang, a ding, a chick, chick, boom, boom, a whang, a bang, a bang. And the same thing happens the 3rd year, until his curiosity is driving him mad. And he says, you've been coming here for 3 years. Tell me, otherwise I'll go mad. Why do you have an orange and an apple and a piece of string, and I lie in the next cell to you, and all I can hear is a whang, a bang, a chink, a chink, a chink, a ding, a boom, a dong, a chick, 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 a boom. What are you doing with those things? And he said, I will tell you, providing you promise to me that you will never, ever tell anybody else. And he said, I promise. And he was a man of God, so he kept his word. Drive you mad, that wouldn't it? But the terrible thing is, when I'm telling that guy, I can't remember whether I've said orange, apple, or apple and orange, or a piece of lemon. I'm not quite sure. We, in the show, generally come to one part of the show where we have what we call a hodgepodge collection of items. And if you've been watching the show, you'll generally get it that I get myself into some sort of a kind of muddle, looking for an introduction into these items, because these items basically have nothing to do with anything else. So tonight, I think I've solved this problem. I won't look for an introduction. I won't even bother about it. I will just relax and let you see them. And in seeing them, you'll know why I haven't looked for an introduction. Because it can actually be a great problem to find something which helps the items. So I've thought about it, and I've said to myself, it's a worry. And I got enough worries. Why the hell should I worry about an introduction? Why should I sit in there going, I've got to think, so I won't do it. I will not have an introduction for these items. I've got my own problems. I got problems of mortgages, bills, children. Whether the light goes on, who needs a problem for an introduction? I don't need it. If you want an introduction, make up your own introduction. I am sick and tired sitting here thinking about introduction.
Morning, Mr. Jefferson. I'm just going to remove the plaster. That's right. Will you please put your hands by your side? Please relax. That's right, I'll just undo the buttons. Now please, Mr. Jefferson, do not be difficult. That's right, will you just put your arms down by your side? I shall remove the plaster in one.
The fire's just gone out.
St. Mary's, Father Flanagan speaking. It's himself.
Remember, your phone could get you closer to someone you love.
I wouldn't mind, but he reversed the charges. I don't know whether you've ever had or been in the position of trying to explain to a foreigner what we call a traditional British pantomime. I had the misfortune a few years ago of sitting in a bar, and an American sat beside me and he said, "Excuse me, sir, would you be so kind to explain to me, I've been looking through the theatrical advertisements, what sort of a play is this you've got here in London called Mother Goose? Is that a religious play?" And I said, no, it's a play for children. It's a story about a person called Mother Goose, who is a man dressed up as a woman. And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Mother Goose has a son called Jack." I said, "Yeah?" "How does Jack feel about having a mother who's a man dressed up as a woman?" I said, "Well, in actual fact, Jack is a girl dressed up as a boy. And they have a goose." I said, "Yeah, well, what's the premise of this story?" And I said, "Well, Mother Goose, who is a man dressed up as a woman, and her son Jack, who's a girl dressed up as a boy, are rather poor. And they're having trouble with the landlord, who is a man, dressed up as a man. And there's an additional problem that the landlord's daughter," and he said, "Don't tell me, is a boy dressed up as a girl." And I said, "No, it's a girl dressed up as a girl. She falls in love with Jack, who's a girl dressed up as a boy." And I said, "Yeah." Huh? "What happens?" And I said, "Well, there's a fairy." And she, "Yeah, there's a fairy," who comes in and waves a magic wand, and the goose lays golden eggs. And the landlord, or the squire, who's a man dressed up as a man, falls in love with Mother Goose, who's a man dressed up as a woman. And Jack, who is a girl dressed up as a boy, marries the girl who's dressed up as a girl. And he said, "What about the fairy?" I said, "Well, she got the goose." And the thing I never worked out, it really is for children. Actually, the thing that I've always personally loved about fairy stories is that they always begin with "once upon a time," and they always finish up with "and they lived happily ever after." I have but to kiss her soft lips, and she shall wake.
Where on earth have you been? Oh, God, I don't hear you in your life. I know gallivanting around, enjoying yourself, leaving me here, all on my own for the past 100 years. Oh, just look at this place, just look at it. Dust and cobwebs all over the place. Look at the floor, it's absolutely filthy, absolutely covered in grime. And you might have cleared it up of filth before you go and leave me here and then wake me up with all this dust and filth. And who on earth put this spinning wheel here? For heaven's sake, someone could go and pick that... out.
Thank God for that. Habit that is left over from childhood is to get into the warmth and security of your own bed with a good book and escape from the world and from what the night might bring.
Is anybody there? Who is it?
Only come to all the hills. Good night. Did you notice that most horror stories actually have what they call the curse of? There's always the curse of Dracula. The curse of the mummy. The curse of Cobra Khan. The curse of the 4.5 fingers. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we would, if we may, like to present our production of one of the most horrific, spine-chilling of all horror stories. It gives me great pleasure tonight to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the curse of the werewolf. Oh, why me? Ah, there you are. Walkies. Here we are. In doing something like that, you see, we've got to do it in stages because my hair doesn't grow that fast. Really, I mean, we make up and then what we say, we stop tape, we hold it. And I go off and I get made up a little bit more and I come back and we do a little bit more and so on. And I was just in the final stage when something went wrong, so I had to wait for half an hour. So I had to go to the loo. So I walk in, there's a fellow standing there, so I'm doing what I'm doing, and he's doing what he's doing. And he's going, and he went, well, I suppose it helps the cleaners. I'm telling you the truth. Actually, that's the thing I like, because, I mean, you go for a drink in the bar on the BBC, and it's the only place in the world you'll see Henry VII and Henry VIII buying Queen Elizabeth I a Bloody Mary. Actually, I'm very fond of what I call history, or what is known as history. And did you know that King Harold of England, the man who fought the Normans, was one of the greatest inventors in the world? Did you know that he invented a very specific type of arrow? But in inventing that, he wasn't thinking that he had invented an arrow, he had invented a telescope. And he went down to Hastings and saw all those Normans landing and he said, "Hand me my telescope." And he went, "Oh!" And the Vikings, what about those Vikings, the long ships? Those bronzed, blue-eyed Norse gods. Terror that they created in the Saxons and the Celts as that long boat would come around the curve of the Firth. Drive it up the sand on that bronze with the horns, and the axe and the shield. Would say, "We will pillage the village! We will raze it to the ground! We shall kill all the women and rape all the men!" You got that one? Kill all the men and rape all the women. He said, "You play your games, I play mine." Funny thing about history, actually, that the course of history has been changed by the most insignificant of events. When you think about it, if Caesar, on his way to the Senate, and the soothsayer had stepped out and said, "Beware the Ides of March," and Caesar had a gun, yeah. And he went home. The course of history would have been changed. Robert Bruce in Scotland, in the cave with the spider, if it had been a beetle, he'd have gone, "Gah!" If Frau Hitler, instead of giving birth to a little boy called Adolf, had given birth to a girl, the course of history would have been changed. You'd have had a big fat Frau on one of the stars saying, "Dig on the ball again!" Mind you, if we'd have had a hand in the course of history, it would have been very different than what it is today. God! It's Adam here! I don't wish to be ungrateful, but I think you've made a mistake.
Oh, Moses, forgive me, but you are meant for better things. God has taken your destiny into his own hands.
I, Richard of Gloucester, whom some do call a knave, with my own hand dispatched her husband, the prince, unto the grave. And now she hates me. But love is close to hate, is it not? And I, with sweet words, yea, and with tears, will prove to her that all was done for love. And by such words will wipe away her mournful frown. I'll marry her, and so to gain the crown. Teach not thy lips such scorn, my lady. They were made for kissing, not for such contempt. Thy revengeful heart cannot forgive. Lo, here, I lend thee the sharp-pointed sword, which if thou please to hide in this true breast, and set forth a soul that adoreth thee, I lay it naked to the deadly stroke, and humbly beg my death upon my knee. You will not suppose to do that. Finally, from taking a look at possible past history, let us take a look at possible future history.
Oh, my darling. My darling. Do you realize that we are the last survivors on Earth? Together we will start again. Together we will find a way of repopulating the Earth. You and I together succeed. We will start.
Thank you very much. Good night, and may your God go with you.
And Dave Allen returns next Saturday night at 8:30 with more of his unique humour. But next on 7, Bodie and Doyle star as the professionals.